Hello folks, Scott here with the new Hero Studio Card Kit of the Month for October of 2025. The theme of this kit is Merry Era. So we start out with the Deck the Halls with Disco Balls 6x8 stamp set. That makes me giggle. Deck the halls with disco balls. In my merry era, I don't know, have a ball this Christmas. That's fun. We've got this layering stamp that is a mirror ball. Christmas is too sparkly, said no one ever. Okay, we've got some spruce branches, a Santa hat in 2 pieces. There's a little bow, some the bow in 2 pieces. There's an ornament cap if you want to turn your mirror ball into an ornament. That's our 6x8 stamp set. And of course, that comes with coordinating dies. The Deck the Halls with disco balls, coordinating dies. Cuts out our big numbers. What's that H? What's this H here for? Oh, yes, that H is to put with the mirror ball. So you've got ho, ho, ho. That's what it is. That's what the story is. Coordinating dies cuts out the sentiments, the bow, the hat, the spruce branches. These are for the disco ball. This is for the bright sunshine sparkles. The coordinating dies, and then we also get have a ball die set. This is a great big mirror ball. It doesn't cut out every one of the squares, but most of them. Very interesting. Here's a little cap for your ball and looks like a little 3-piece bow, 4-piece bow, and some sparkles. That's the Have a Ball die set. We also get some Hero Arts gold embossing powder. I don't think you get a pot this big, but this is my gold embossing powder from Hero Arts that I have on hand. We also get some cardstock. So we have Poppy, Dahlia, Tutu, Blush, Alabaster, Beeswax, Tuscan, Fern, Seaside, and Waterfall, and then 2 sheets of gold matte cardstock. This is nice and gold. It's not reflective. It's not mirror. It's very nice matte gold. That's interesting. I have always kind of thought of mirror balls as silver, but I guess we're going to have to do a lot of colors of mirror balls this month. So let's deck the halls with disco balls. And here's my 10 cards for the Merry Era Card Kit of the Month, Hero Studio, October of 2025. We've got some shaped cards in there. Now, I have to admit that I am not current on the slang use of era to define particular moments, especially fleeting moments in a person's life. Now, I always thought era was used to refer to an epochal period of time, as in the Paleozoic era. But I suppose in this age of constant navel-gazing, we have adopted era to mean any length of time marked by any sort of change in one's personal life. Now, I have to admit, I do like this Deck the Halls with disco balls sentiment. And as someone who was actually alive and participating in the disco era, I do love the assorted disco balls in this kit. Now, I reached for the stamp set and the layering disco ball stamps to begin with, 1 outline and 3 filler stamps. And that gives us our first card, our Deck the Halls with disco balls card. Lots of sparkly shine on that. Now, I use the Altenew Dark Night ink for the mirror ball outline, then Misty Morning, Cloudy Sky, and Nimbus for the filler tiles. Now, these inks came in a set from Altenew with matching grays from light to dark. This set of gray inks does lean a bit more to a teal gray, which I thought would work well for a mirror ball. So to add a bit of reflection to the ball, I used a Versamark pen Emboss It pen to color in some of the tiles. There you can see them. I embossed them with clear embossing powder for some shine. That turned those shiny tiles a little more green. Now, I stamped the ornament cap with Hero Arts granite ink and die cut that and the ball with their matching dies. I trimmed away the white border on the ornament cap where it overlapped the ball and punched a tiny hole in the opening and glued that to the top edge, ready for a hanging cord. The background is a panel of Seaside cardstock from the kit, stamped using layers of Hero Arts contour ink with a very old graduated circles rubber background stamp. This may be my first rubber background stamp that I ever owned. Now, I die cut that panel to 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, and I sprayed some sheer shimmer sparkle to bring that background to life. There you can see the sparkles on our background. When the sparkle was dry, I added a thin gold mat behind that. I die cut a panel of white cardstock to 3 3/4 by 5 inches with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die and added a thin mat of fern cardstock from the kit behind. I glued that to a white A2 card base. I stamped the sentiment on a scrap of white cardstock with Versamark ink and embossed that with Hero Arts gold embossing powder that we get in our kit. I die cut that with a matching die, added it to the card front with foam tape. I added a piece of gold thread through the ornament cap and glued that behind the gold mat and attached the mirror ball to the card front with foam tape. I glued that to the card front and added a few gold sequins for some extra sparkle. That is quite the versatile mirror ball stamp. You can let your crafty spirit explore any combination of colors. Deck the halls with disco balls. Of course, I'm just looking for some sparkle on my mirror ball, so I gathered all the sparkly metallic inks in my stash, and that gives us our ho 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 card. I guess I have to surrender to that ho 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 at least once. Now, the gold ho outline is stamped with Hero Hues rose gold pigment ink and filled in with golden glitz, celestial copper, and a touch of bronze burst delicata inks from Sukaniko. I stamped the H and the bow in the same colors. Very interesting shine for a subtle sparkle. The silver hoe outline is stamped with Hero Arts granite ink and filled in with delicata silvery shimmer ink. That's that one right there. And Concord and Ninth Dove ink and Hero Arts contour ink. Again, the H and the bow are stamped in the same colors. Now, for the center hoe, I stamped the outline with Dove ink and filled it in with Concord and Ninth, the Peacock, the Oceanside, the Aqua Sky inks. The bow outline is stamped with Peacock ink and filled in with the other two inks as well. And the H uses all three. Now, there's no glitter in these inks, so I used a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to add some glitter to the stampings. The silver set is probably the least glittery of the three. Now, the background is a piece of pattern paper from my stash, die cut to 3 3/4 by 5 inches with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die. I sanded the edges a little bit for a touch of distressing. I glued that to a thin white mat and then a thin teal mat, hoping to match with the center hoe. That's pretty close. I glued the stacked background to a white card base. Now, I added the 3 hoes to the card front with foam tape. Now, because of the slant on the H, it was a little tricky to line these hoes up, so I just used my gridded mat to line them up and transferred them to the card front with low-tack tape. Now, I did add a panel that's 3 3/4 by 5 inches to the inside of the card with the Have a Ball sentiment and Santa hat using VersaFine Onyx Black ink and Concord and Ninth Poppy ink for the red. Now, the curve of the hat fits the curve of that sentiment quite nicely. I do think you do need all three hoes to make these mirror balls make sense. Ho, ho, ho! Have a ball this Christmas. Now, most mirror balls are silver or plain mirror for maximum reflectivity, though I suppose any color of mirror tiles would work since they're actually reflecting whatever color of light is projected on them. I'm just shooting for classic silver. And that gives us our Have a Ball This Christmas with a real silver mirror ball there. I think this comes really pretty close. I wanted to stamp on metallic cardstock, so I reached for my Stays On Jet Black Solvent ink to stamp the mirror ball outline on some silver matte card in my stash. Then I stamped the same on some silver mirror cardstock and proceeded to fussy cut all the mirror tiles. I die cut the matte ball and glued the mirror tiles on top, alternating the mirror tiles with the matte background. You can see that there. That feels like a real era-defining mirror ball to me. And here you can see my cutting out of all of those individual tiles on that real silver mirror cardstock. The background here is a dark blue pearlescent cardstock from my stash. That's die cut to 4 inches by 2 3/4 with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, and the sentiment is stamped with Versamark ink and embossed with Hero Arts silver embossing powder. On a scrap of the same cardstock, I stamped, embossed, and die cut the 3 sparkles with the same silver embossing powder. I added a piece of silver thread to the back of the mirror ball, added the ball over the sentiment with foam tape, wrapped the silver thread over the top of the blue background, and glued it to the back. I added a thin mat of white cardstock with a thin mat of silver matte cardstock behind the blue and attached the sparkles with foam tape. The green striped pattern paper is from my stash and die cut to 5 inches by 3 3/4 with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, and the same white and silver mats are glued behind. These are all glued to an A2 white card base, and the matted blue panel is glued on top. Now this may be my favorite mini mirror ball. Have a ball this Christmas. Now, once I broke out that Stays On Jet Black Solvent ink, I knew my metallic cardstocks were going to get a bit of a workout. And that gives us another Deck the Halls with disco balls with all of these metallic cardstock disco balls. This is about as simple as you can get with these mini mirror balls. I stamped those on some red and green Tim Holtz metallic jewels cardstock and some mirrored holographic cardstock from my stash. That's the colors there and the silver ones. Stays On ink dries perfectly and no filler tiles are needed. I die cut the balls with the matching die and added silver thread to hang them from. Now it's back to my pattern paper stash for this green striped paper with the white glitter snowflakes down the side. I die cut that to 3 3/4 by 5 inches with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die. I stamped the sentiment with Versamark ink and embossed it with Hero Arts white embossing powder. I decided on an arrangement for the mirror balls, attached them all with thin foam tape, and taped their strings over the top of the pattern paper. Then I added a thin black mat and a thin silver mat before gluing all down to a white card base. Some small silver snowflake sequins adds more sparkle, and this is a terrifically shiny Christmas card. Look at that go. I do think this sentiment is kind of a hoot. Deck the halls with disco balls, especially for anyone who actually participated in the disco era. Okay, so I can't bring myself to use the Christmas is too sparkly, said no one ever sentiment. But I will brave the Merry Era sentiment. So this is our In My Merry Era card. There we go, some nice holographic sparkles there. Now, In my seems a little odd on a card front. Now, why am I sending you a card about me being in my merry era? Isn't that similar to sending someone a card that says, I'm having a Merry Christmas? I guess I understand that this is kind of the vernacular now, but I digress. I wanted to use the pine branches and the holly stamps in this set, and I haven't used the sunburst stamp yet either. And of course, I'm going for as much sparkle as possible. So I grabbed this great white holographic glitter cardstock from my stash, and I did a quick experiment on a scrap to see if I could emboss on its shiny surface. It worked. I do like using white or white-ish backgrounds when I use die-cut stampings. I think it helps the white borders on the die cuts appear a little less obvious. So I stamped the pine branches with Hero Hue's Byzantine Green Reactive Glitz ink. There are tiny touches of sparkle in that here and there. I stamped the holly leaves with the Concord & Ninth Oceanside ink and the berries with Concord & Ninth Poppy ink. I die cut everything with their matching dies. I stamped the sentiment on a scrap of white cardstock with Versamark ink, embossed it with some Love from Lizzie Emerald City embossing powder, again, one of my favorite embossing powders, and I die cut it along with 3 blanks and glued them all together. I stamped the sunburst on the white glitter cardstock, die cut to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and I embossed it with the Hero Arts gold embossing powder. I stamped another mirror ball on gold metallic cardstock with the StazOn ink, and I die cut that out as well. I added a thin mat of fern cardstock from the kit behind the white glitter background and glued those to a white card base. I attached the mirror ball with foam tape and the pine branches with glue and a little bit of foam tape behind the ends of the short branches. I glued the holly and berries in place, and I glued the sentiment on top. I found a pack of enamel stickers. These are from the My Monthly Hero Premium Kit of April 2023, and the small red stickers fit on the berries perfectly. Just a little bit more shine for this sparkly, declarative Christmas greeting in my merry era. Sparkle, sparkle, shine, shine, holograph, holograph. Now, short of the Christmas is too sparkly, said no one ever sentiment, I have used all of the stamps in the stamp set. It's time to have a look at this Have a Ball die set. This disco ball is 4 1/4 inches in diameter. When I get a die this large, my first thoughts often turn to shaped cards. And so we have our Deck the Halls with Disco Balls. Disco Ball. I grabbed some gold metallic cardstock and some gold glitter cardstock from my stash, and I die cut the big ball from both. I die cut 2 scraps of white cardstock with a 4 1/4 inch Hero Arts Circle Infinity die. Now, if you have the Hero Arts die, then the next to the largest one fits this mirror ball perfectly. I glued the outline die to the white base. Then I could paper piece in the tiles, metallic tiles on the glitter outline, and then I glued the glitter tiles on the metallic outline. That gives me 2 for 1. Now, I folded a piece of white cardstock in half, and I die cut the 4 1/4 inch circle, leaving 1/8 of an inch or so of the die over the folded edge to give me a round folding card base. I glued the assembled mirror ball on top. I die cut the bow from that same Tim Holtz red metallic jewels cardstock and the underside of the loops from some dark red cardstock in my stash. I glued the bow pieces together and glued those to the top of the ball. The sentiment is stamped on the dark red cardstock with Versamark ink and embossed with the gold embossing powder. I die cut the sentiment and 2 blanks with the matching die, glued them together before gluing them to the face of the mirror ball. I trimmed about 1/4 of an inch off the bottom of the card on the back, and that's parallel to the fold line so the card will stand for display. No embellishments are needed on a big shiny card like this. Deck the halls with disco balls. And here's that 2-for-1 option. Have a ball this Christmas. This is the gold metallic outline with the gold glitter tiles. Now it's interesting, I think the metallic outlines look thinner than the glitter outlines. I think that must be some kind of an optical illusion because those are both from the same die. The ball is glued to a die-cut card base just the same as the first ball card. And the bow is die-cut from the Tim Holtz metallic green jewels card stock. And the loop shadow is cut from some Hero Hues palm card stock. I glued the bow together down to the mirror ball, the sentiment stamped on the same palm cardstock and embossed with gold embossing powder, and then die cut along with 2 blanks. Those are glued together and then glued down to the card front. These shaped cards are just glorious, and I'm sure anybody would be thrilled to receive one. Of course, you could add the little tag topper to this card and it could become an ornament after it's a card. But let's look at that on our next card. And you know me, I gotta have my silver mirror ball. That gives us another Deck the Halls with Disco Balls silver die-cut mirror ball. I grabbed some matte silver metallic cardstock and some silver mirror cardstock from my stash. I die cut the big ball from both, glued the outlines to 2 white 4 1/4 inch circles, and paper pieced the tiles into the openings. The matte tiles go on the mirror outline, and the mirror tiles go onto the matte outline. For this card, I did add the die-cut tag loop to the top of the mirror ball, and I tied a green striped bow from some wired ribbon and slipped some silver cord into the knot so that I could tie the bow to the top of the mirror ball and have some cord left over for hanging. Now, I stamped the sentiment on the matte silver cardstock with Versamark ink, embossed that with the Emerald City embossing powder. I die cut the sentiment and 1 blank with the matching die, glued those together for a little more rigidity. I also stamped a to and from on the back side of the mirror ball, which is white. Here's our cord, here's our mirror ball. There is a to and from. Those stamps are from the Hero Studio Card Kit of the Month for October of 24, the Christmas tags tree, to and from, right there. So I attached the mirror ball to a plain white A2 card base using Zotz removable clear adhesive dots. These are great for adding a piece to a card that you want people to be able to remove and use as something else. These, I swear by these. You can see them right here on the front of our card. Your recipient can remove the whole mirror ball and use it as a tag or an ornament, or a tag and an ornament. I love that this ribbon is sparkly and a little bit see-through, so it doesn't feel like too much here. This is a card I would probably deliver in person, or, you know, it's a wired ribbon, so let it get flat and the recipient can fluff it up. And of course, the silver die cuts give us another 2-for-1 option. I was really interested in trying to imitate the mirror ball reflections on the background of our card. So that gives us have a ball this Christmas with half of a mirror ball. Now, to give me more background area, I cut the assembled mirror ball in half. This is the silver mirror tiles with the silver matte outline. I looked for a stencil that had an irregular pattern of dots, and I finally picked the Concord and 9th Confetti Dots Turnabout stencil for these random reflections. Now, since the stencil is created to be stamped 4 times in rotation, doing it only once makes for a very random distribution of dots. I pounced Versamark ink through the stencil and embossed the dots with the Love from Lizzie Silver Glitz embossing powder. That is very sparkly. I die cut the background to 3 3/4 by 5 inches with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die and added a thin silver metallic matte behind, glued them to a white card base. I stamped the pine boughs with the Byzantine ink again on some plain green cardstock, and I added some veining details with a brown Pigma Micron pen before die cutting them with their matching dies. I stamped the sentiment with Versamark ink on the same green cardstock, embossed that with Hero Art silver embossing powder, and die cut it and 2 blanks with the coordinating die. I glued those together and weighted them down to dry. I added the mirror ball with thin foam tape. The pine boughs, I glued their ends down and added some foam tape at their tips. I glued the sentiment to the mirror ball and added some thin foam tape on the right side. I think the sparkly dots are very reminiscent of a mirror ball's reflections twirling around. Have a ball this Christmas. Okay, enough with the holiday balls. Let's go to the disco. And we have a Keep on Dancing card. Oh my goodness, this feels so amazing. A Discolicious all-purpose encouragement card. Now, I actually created the background I'm using here when I was making this card using the Hero Studio Card Kit of the Month from March of this year. I used the thin stripe stencil in that kit to make the deco foil background on this Yay card, and I immediately took the leftover foil and laminated it to a panel of black toner cardstock. So I had an extra panel of that foil with thin black stripes instead of the thin foiled stripes. This is the Deco Foil Rainbow Shattered Glass Transfer Sheets. This panel has been sitting on my desk since March. It was time to use it. I die cut the foiled panel to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and I added a thin white mat and a thin black mat, glued them to an A2 white card base. Now, I created this sentiment using my Silhouette software and the phosphate font. I thought that was very disco-ish, and I printed that on some glossy photo paper. Now, I die cut the printed sentiment with a 1.5 inch infinity circle die along with 3 blanks and glued them all together. I attached the other half of the disco ball with thin foam tape a little bit closer to the top to leave room for the sentiment, and I die cut the sparkles from the same white holographic glitter cardstock as used on card 5, and I attached those to the disco ball with thin foam tape. The sentiment is glued down comfortably in the lower left corner, and I can practically feel the bass pounding and hear the divas wailing with this card. Keep on dancing, yeah, keep on dancing, yeah, got to keep on dancing, keep on dancing. This is a great card, a great birthday card, a great encouragement card, a great anniversary card, very versatile here, especially for anybody who lived through the disco era. Got to keep on dancing, keep on dancing. And thanks to some 2-for-1 assemblages, that's my 10 cards for this month. You do have to hand it to Hero Arts. Their card kits are definitely unique and continually offer something that I've never seen before. I had a great time trying to emulate an actual mirror ball, and it's nice to be able to feature some metallic cardstocks for a change. Now, this is a shiny and extra sparkly set of cards this month. I did use all but the Said No One Ever stamps and most of the coordinating dies. I used all of the Have a Ball die set and a good amount of the papers and lots of the gold embossing powder. Now, though I don't think I'm going to be making a disco Christmas theme for my actual holiday cards anytime soon, I do really like the small stamped disco balls and the large disco ball die, and that big ribbon die is terrific too. There must be lots of uses for the items in this kit throughout the year and for many non-holiday greetings. Let me know which cards are your favorite. As usual, if you'd like to get this kit for yourself, you will need to subscribe to the Hero Studio Card Kit of the Month by October 27th. If you do go shopping at Hero Arts, please use my links listed below. I make a small commission from whatever you buy at no cost to you. That helps support this page and keeps a little fun inspiration coming your way. Thank you so very much for sharing some time with me here today. Your attention means so much to me. If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up at the top. That really helps that YouTube algorithm push this video around. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please join us. Click that subscribe button. Click that bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Please take a few moments to like me, list me, pin me, post me, share this post with all of your crafty friends. And remember, don't run with scissors. As always, I send you and yours love and light and happy crafting. For more details, better picks, and product links, please visit my website at cardcutups.com.